gotcha.
Thanks, Ernest. You saved me. I thought I was a goner.
Tonight, folks, we're talking Ernest Scared Stupid. Stay tuned. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Tonight, we are talking one of my absolute childhood favorites here in movie reviews. Hopefully, some of y'all know this one. Tonight, we are talking Ernest Scared Stupid. That is right, folks. One of the all-time Halloween classics. We are finally getting to it tonight on T Watches a Scary Movie. But before we get there, of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button no matter where you are tuning in. We got a lot of great horror content up on the channel right now. A lot of really good stuff coming up for you guys as well, too, that I'll tell you about at the end of the show. But let's not waste any more time and jump right on into things here. If you have not seen the trailer for Ernest Scared Stupid before, Ernest P. Worrell is working as a garbage collector in a small Missouri town. Despite the warnings of superstitious local Old Lady Hackmore, he accidentally unleashes devious troll Trantor, a slimy creature confined under a tree by Ernest's ancestor 200 years prior. Trantor seeks to turn the children of this small Missouri town into wooden dolls that will imbue him with demonic powers of all time, and it is up to Ernest and Old Lady Hackmore to stop Trantor's reign of terror. And there it is, folks. That is Ernest Scared Stupid. Now, the first thing I have to very unfortunately let you know is that this film is not available for free across any of the streaming services right now, but it is available to both rent and purchase on most services like Vudu or Fandango at home or Amazon Prime Video. So go and check that out if you have not yet here. But Ernest, if you don't know who Ernest was a lovable, bumbling idiot from the 80s and the 90s that had a number of theatrically released films and then a bunch more that were direct to video, and also had a couple of TV shows as well too. It's very likely if you know somebody that grew up in the 80s or the 90s, they have seen at least a couple of Ernest movies. Now, the ones that they've likely seen is typically out of 4 because it's the theatrical ones that most folks typically remember. Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Goes to Jail, and Ernest Scared Stupid. There is a good chance anybody you've talked to who grew up in the 80s and 90s have seen at least a couple of those. And interestingly enough, I think the two that most folks have seen have been Ernest Goes to Camp and Ernest Saves Christmas, leaving my two favorites, Ernest Goes to Jail and Ernest Scared Stupid, out on the sidelines. I don't get it. If that's true, let me know in the comment section. If it's not true, let me know what Ernest movie you were watching back in the day here. But Ernest Scared Stupid was giving something different from what we had seen in this franchise thus far. You know, each of the prior entries in this film series had Ernest ultimately causing whatever trouble was going on for the plot of the film itself, and then being the one who ultimately has to help save the day for it as well too. But for the most part, these were not obviously plots that were going to have these gigantic consequences for anybody outside of Ernest. Now, of course, we could argue Ernest Saves Christmas. The entire point of that is him saving Christmas for everybody, and Ernest Goes to Jail. There are a few other people that might have been killed in that film, but I digress here. Usually these are not plots that are going to end up hurting a lot of people. And that kind of changed here in Ernest Scared Stupid, because again, the plot is this 200-year troll who originally had this beef with Ernest's ancestor has been brought back in modern day by Ernest unknowingly, and now in order to gain this ultimate power needs to turn all the children, or not all the children, but it's a handful of children, into these wooden dolls, which allows him to complete this ritual and give him all of this extra power. And the thing is, taking those children is very different from the dangers we have seen in this franchise. It's a kids series. Like, let's be clear about this. Ernest films were very much intended for kids. So making kids the target here already adds a bit of terror to it. You know, I've talked about it in some of my recent reviews, most specifically VHS Halloween with a segment called Kid Print, that when we are focusing on kids being the targets here, that definitely elevates that terror up, because you like to think that in most cases, and spoken rule of most horror films is that children aren't going to be hurt. We say that knowing that teenagers are killed off in slashers all the time. But either way, and seeing these kids in danger here, y'all, let me tell you, for a kids movie, Ernest Scared Stupid does a great job of actually making it genuinely terrifying. Now, Trantor himself, the troll, who goes on to make other trolls, kind of like gremlins almost later on in the film, the best relation I could kind of give to the looks of them is almost like the clowns from Killer Clowns from Outer Space almost. Every troll has its own distinct look and a little bit of a personality, and they're all supposed to be looking obviously very, very unique from one another. And some of these designs very much look like they were taken from some of the clowns in Killer Clowns. Again, check it out. If I'm right or if I'm wrong, let me know here in the comment section. But I will say, as a kid, the look of these trolls, terrifying. And the way that they sometimes do jump scares in this film is a great way to add a lot more attention to it. There are numerous scenes in this where kids are trying to escape from the troll, or the troll has set a trap for them. And it's not like the troll appears out of nowhere and like freaks them out like any other horror film, but it's kind of like that thing where we know what's coming. Like this kid falls into a ditch and looking for help to get pulled out of the ditch, and suddenly somebody grabs his hand and he's saying thank you, thinking it's one of his friends. Then he looks up, surprise, it's the troll instead. Like, that is a scary moment to watch as a kid. It's not a jump scare for us adults, but there's still just a little bit of tension and terror in there. Now, what makes this film work so well, though, is the fact that we do have the humor of Jim Varney as Ernest P. Worrell in this to really balance the scarier aspects of it. And here's the thing. You're either in for an Ernest movie or you're not. I am not going to convince any of y'all that suddenly go and check out an Ernest movie for yourself if you're not already into this franchise. I kind of think that's something that you had to have grown up in that time to really appreciate Ernest for who he was, the kind of humor that he had, and how that hit back in those days. To just jump into Ernest new right now probably is not going to work so well. So obviously, I'm more so speaking to y'all that also grew up here with Ernest. And the thing is that a lot of this humor, which of course, as we have grown up, probably and likely doesn't hold up so well. But I will say, watching this recently, there were still a number of gags in this that I was chuckling at. Like, I still find it a total blast when Jim Varney is doing all the various characters, whether it's like the Roman general, or it's like a few of the various ladies he's dressing up as, or the Botswanan. There are so many good jokes, and Jim Varney is such a hilarious guy. This guy is such a committed actor to his bit. There's a reason why Ernest was so beloved by family and children back in the day at the height of Ernest Mania, honestly. Like, this is such an amazing guy who really did a great job here with this role. But he's not the only famous face in this one, as we get Catwoman. Eartha Kitt shows up here playing Old Lady Hackmore, the only connection to Trantor, the troll, and knows the dangers of bringing Trantor back alive and what he exactly wants in their small town too. And it's fun because in the early 90s, and honestly throughout a good chunk of the 90s, you'd see stars like Eartha Kitt showing up in films like these, because at this point, they've made a great career for themselves, and now they're just kind of having fun, and seeing somebody of her stature show up in a film like this does add a bit of legitimacy to it. And that's needed, because this very much is a fart movie, all right? Like, that is the kind of humor that we're ultimately getting. It's old school Power Rangers with Bulk and Skull. That is the grand majority of what we're seeing here in this film. But again, the fact that we do get these truly actual scary moments peppered throughout, and it's all about targeting kids, does add that bit of tension to it. It is interesting though, because watching it as an adult, you then see some of the violence that's geared towards the adults in the film. The fact that Trantor tries to stab Ernest with his very, very long sword there, which we clearly see is fake in a couple of the scenes, but it's like, man, like, implying he's gonna stab Ernest to death. And then when we get to the battle the battle at the end before the kids show up with the milk to stop the trolls. And the trolls are just grabbing like all the guns and breaking them apart and shooting at the sheriff. It's like, man, there's some serious danger going on. Like, a couple of them had axes ready to chop up the parents of all these kids out there. And I find it hilarious that the lead kid, Kenny, his dad is the sheriff of the town. And once Kenny shows up, it's like, Dad, it's milk. The milk stops the trolls. His dad's just suddenly like, ha ha, son, I'm not a cop anymore. You got this. And sends his son off to go fight trolls. And what happens to Kenny? Kenny gets turned into a wooden doll. This is the worst sheriff of all time. His wife later on is screaming, crying about what happened to Kenny being turned into a wooden doll. And it's like, lady, you're gonna be a lot more upset when you find out that your husband, who had a gun at one point, sent his 8-year-old child with milk to go and fight a mystical creature. Done, 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 done. And that happened at all. But y'all, seriously though, if you're looking for something family friendly that you can show to a younger audience, but it's still got a little bit of edge to it. And I want to be clear, this is not like Monster Squad. This is not your Lost Boys. This is not even gonna be like a Jurassic Park, anything like that in the least bit when I talk about the edge that's on it. But what I will say is that the scares here in Ernest Scared Stupid are a little bit more serious for a kid's film than what you might actually expect, and that adds a lot of legitimacy to this. Again, I am biased because I grew up here on Ernest Scared Stupid, but I can still acknowledge the fact that there is a lot here to enjoy, even if overall the film itself is not this amazing movie. So, at the end of the day, Ernest Scared Stupid gets a 3.5 out of 5. This is a good ranking for it because I'm not trying to tell you that Ernest Scared Stupid is this amazing film. I appreciate nostalgia for what it is, but the truth is there's some good humor in this, there's some good scares in this one, and it's family friendly for those of y'all who might be looking to show something to your kiddos from maybe your childhood. You can't go wrong going with Ernest Scared Stupid. So, check it out. Again, it's available for rent and for purchase on your premium streaming sites like Fandango at Home and Prime Video. Check it out. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of that one. And of course, don't forget to get subscribed to my Linktree because we got a lot of great stuff coming up. The easiest way to do that is go to linktr.ee/tscarymovie. If you get subscribed to my Linktree, that's going to give you access to my YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms for the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news, movie premieres, and movie reviews, my Twitch page for horror gaming including Phasmophobia, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of really great stuff coming up for y'all, including reviews for The Black Phone 2. We got an early screening of that next week. Good Boy, The Long Walk, Street Trash, The Toxic Avenger. We got so much good stuff coming up for y'all here in October. I do not want you to miss it. And very soon I'll have my video out there for my trip to Las Vegas's Universal Horror Unleashed. So, stay tuned for all of that here, y'all, but that is going to do it for me tonight. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.